Phase 1. The Sun. You're 12. You don't know what your father does. You know he leaves before dawn and comes home after midnight, smelling like cigarettes and cologne. You know that when he walks into a room, other men stand up. You know that the envelope your mother sends you to deliver to the butcher on Via Maqueda every first Monday of the month, thick, unsealed, more cash than a butcher charges for anything, is never discussed. You know that the black Alfa Romeo parked outside your school most afternoons belongs to a man who is not a relative but calls your father compare, godfather. The neighborhood knows your surname. Teachers say it differently than other names, carefully, with a small pause before it, like a step taken on uncertain ground. In church, your family sits in the third pew on the left, and no one sits in front of you. You are 12 years old, and you understand none of this consciously. But your body understands it, the way a child understands gravity before he knows the word for it. Your father takes you fishing one Sunday on the Tyrrhenian coast, just the two of you. The water is flat and green, and the light comes off it in long pieces. He doesn't say much. At the end of the day, on the drive home, he says one sentence. He says, "Our name means something. Remember that it means something." You don't ask what it means. You already know that you will find out. And you already know, somewhere beneath the knowing, that you cannot unknow it once you do. Phase 2. The Associate. You're 19. You are not yet a member. You cannot be a member. That requires a ceremony, a sponsor, a vote, and blood that goes back to Sicily without interruption. For now, you run. You run messages between men who will not use phones. You run cash from the numbers operation in Palermo's Ballaro Market to a lawyer's office in Notarbartolo. You stand watch outside social clubs while decisions are made inside that you are not permitted to hear. The men inside are made, uomini d'onore, men of honor. You are not yet. You are useful. There is a difference. But useful to these men is the only ladder that exists in Palermo for a boy with your surname and your understanding of silence. You learn the first rule by watching, not by being told. Omertà is not just keeping quiet. It is the total absence of acknowledgement. You did not see. You do not know. You were not there. The police come to your mother's door twice in your first year. Young men from the neighborhood have been disappearing. They ask if you know anything. Your mother offers them coffee. She is entirely composed. She has been practicing this composure since before you were born. They leave. She clears the cups. She says nothing to you. You say nothing to her. The silence between you is so complete it has its own weight. You carry it everywhere from that point forward. It is the first thing the Cosa Nostra gives you, and the last thing it will ever take back. Phase 3. The Soldier. You're 24. Made. Uomo d'onore. The ceremony happens in a basement room in the Noce district. Whitewashed walls, a wooden table, 8 men seated. Your sponsor stands behind you. The boss of your mandamento holds a small card, a saint's card, Sant'Anna, and places it in your cupped hands. He lights it. The card burns in your palms. The flame touches your skin before it dies. He says, "As this saint burns, so burns your soul if you betray Cosa Nostra." You repeat the oath. You prick your finger. Your blood marks the ashes. You are now a Picciotto, a soldier. You belong to a family. The family belongs to a mandamento. The mandamento belongs to the commission, the governing body of Cosa Nostra, the structure that divides Sicily into territories and settles disputes and authorizes killings. Every killing must be authorized. That is the rule that separates Cosa Nostra from simple criminals. Violence is not personal here. It is administrative. Your first assignment as a made man is to collect the pizzo, the protection tax from 14 businesses in your assigned territory, a hardware store, 3 restaurants, a pharmacy, a small hotel. They all pay. They have always paid. One restaurant owner is 3 weeks late. You visit him alone, at closing time, while he's mopping. You don't threaten him. You simply stand there until he goes to the back and returns with an envelope. The silence does all the work. You drive home and you think about your father's hands, the same work, the same silence, the same surname, and you understand, finally, what he meant on the water that Sunday. The name was never a gift. It was a set of instructions. Phase 4. The Capo. You're 32. You command a decina, 10 soldiers, though in practice the number varies. You manage your territory like a business district manager manages a franchise, revenue targets, personnel problems, compliance with commission rules. Your 10 men bring in 3.2 million euros annually through pizzo collection, construction fraud, and a heroin distribution channel that feeds into the Ballero wholesale network. You keep 20% after your tribute upward. That is 640,000 euros a year in your pocket. Your house in Mondello has a garden that faces the sea. Your children attend private school in Palermo. Your wife knows the general architecture of what you are. She is known since before she married you. She made a decision with open eyes, and she does not revisit it. The commission authorizes a killing in your territory, a city councilman who has been cooperating with the anti-mafia pool of prosecutors. You do not do it yourself. You assign it. You designate the men. You choose the location and the method, and you give the order in 4 words in a conversation that lasts less than 2 minutes. The councilman is found in his car on the Palermo-Catania autostrada 3 days later. The investigators will work the case for 11 years. They will never prove your 4 words. But Judge Giovanni Falcone is watching your mandamento specifically. His prosecutors have been mapping the commission's structure for 2 years, using testimony from pentiti, men who broke omertà to survive. You know their names. Everyone knows their names. Their families still live in Palermo. That is a message that requires no words at all. Phase 5. The Consigliere. You're 41. You advise. You do not command directly. You sit beside the boss of bosses, and you think. Strategy, long-term architecture, the problems that money alone cannot solve. The anti-mafia pool under Falcone has been building cases using RICO-equivalent legislation that treats Cosa Nostra as a single criminal enterprise rather than prosecuting individual crimes. The old model of denying the organization exists is finished. The Maxi trial of 1986 convicted 360 men. The Commission is restructuring its financial operations, moving from visible extortion toward construction contracts, EU agricultural subsidies, and waste management. Your job is to build the new scaffolding. You spend 3 months in New York consulting with the American families, the Gambinos, the Luccheses. They have been operating in legitimate business fronts for 2 decades, and the model is instructive. Brighton Beach to Palermo in economy class under a name that is not yours. You eat dinner in a restaurant in Carroll Gardens with men whose surnames are as old as your own, whose grandfathers came from the same Sicilian towns, who speak Sicilian dialect in the backs of the same rooms. You are 5,000 kilometers from home, and you are among family. You bring the model back. You implement it through a network of cooperative construction firms that win municipal contracts through prices that nobody legitimate can match. You are personally earning 1.1 million euros a year. You have 4 properties registered in your wife's maiden name. You have not directly touched money or violence in 6 years. You are, on paper, a retired businessman with a garden in Mondello. And Falcone is still watching. Phase 6. The Underboss. You're 49. You are the second name. When the boss is unavailable, in prison, in hiding, in a meeting that cannot be acknowledged, you are Cosa Nostra. The Sicilian Commission has been fractured since the Corleonese faction's internal war killed 300 men in the early 1980s and consolidated power brutally. The old balance is gone. You spend half your energy managing alliances between mandamenti that mistrust each other. You spend the other half managing the Falcone problem, which is no longer a legal problem, it is an existential one. In May 1992, the Commission votes. The authorization requires unanimity. You are in the room. You vote. On the 23rd of May, a bomb detonates under the A29 autostrada near Capaci. Falcone, his wife, and 3 bodyguards are killed. The explosion is so large it registers on seismographs. Italy stops. The newspapers call it a declaration of war against the state. You watch the coverage in a house in Bagheria with the curtains drawn. You feel no triumph. You feel the ground shift beneath everything. The state will respond with a force it has never applied before. You know this the way a man knows weather, in the bones, before the clouds appear. You tell the boss, we have just guaranteed our own end. He disagrees. He is wrong. And within 2 years, the arrests begin in waves that do not stop. Phase 7. The Boss of Bosses. You're 55. You didn't want this. That is the truth, and it is also irrelevant. The men above you are dead or imprisoned. The mandate passes by elimination. You are the last one standing with the authority and the relationships to hold the commission together. You hold it, barely. The state's response to Capaci never fully recedes. 41 bis prison regulations, solitary confinement, no communication between imprisoned bosses and the outside. The Cosa Nostra's command structure depends on communication. 41 bis severs it. Men in prison cannot give orders. Men outside cannot receive them. The organization operates in fragments now. You manage through intermediaries who use methods so indirect, hand-delivered notes, coded messages through lawyers, meetings and fishing boats off Mondello, that decisions take weeks that used to take hours. Your revenue is a fraction of the early years. The construction networks still function. The EU subsidy fraud still functions, but the pizzo collection is increasingly difficult in a city where anti-mafia culture has taken root in ways that were unthinkable 20 years ago. Business owners refuse to pay. Some of them do it publicly. They put signs in their windows. You cannot respond to a sign in a window the way you once responded to a late envelope. The world has changed around you, and the tools you have are the tools of the world that no longer exists. You are 55 years old. You have outlived the era that made you possible. Your son has moved to Milan. He is in finance, legitimate. He changed the spelling of his surname by 1 letter. You noticed. You said nothing. It is the first time in 40 years that silence has felt like grief rather than strategy. Phase 8. The Pentito. You're 61, arrested in a pre-dawn raid in Palermo. 43 officers, 2 helicopters, cameras already at the end of your street when they bring you out. 31 counts. RICO conspiracy, murder, extortion across 4 decades. The prosecutors have testimony from 11 pentiti. They have financial records tracing properties through 16 nominee companies across 3 countries. They have a voice recording from 1994. The defense will be excellent. It will not be enough. In the 3rd month of pre-trial detention in Rebibbia, you ask to speak to the anti-mafia prosecutors. This is the most profound violation the Cosa Nostra recognizes. It is the one thing the omertà oath forbids above all others. You burned a saint's card in your cupped hands at 24 years old and swore this exact thing would never happen. But your son is in Milan under a name spelled differently. Your wife has been alone for 6 years. And the organization you are protecting has been bleeding out for a decade. There is less to protect every year, and the cost of protecting it has not changed. You cooperate. 18 months of testimony, dates, names, votes, locations, the Capaci authorization, your own vote. You say it plainly into the recorder and watch the prosecutor's pen stop moving. The plea agreement reduces your sentence to 12 years. You are relocated, new documents, new city, new name that is not your name. Your wife joins you, your son does not. The name he changed the spelling of, he has fully abandoned it now. You understand, you do not blame him. You have been in the witness protection program for 4 months when you realize you broke omertà to save a version of your family that no longer exists. This is Cosa Nostra, ancient blood oaths, modern silence, violence made administrative and passed from father to son like a set of instructions. You spent 40 years honoring the name. In the end, the only way to survive it was to give it up entirely. Your father told you it meant something. He was right. He just never told you what.